สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to the Halloween special on Hot Thai Kitchen. And if you're not watching this on Halloween, well, ignore the costume. Anyway, so people are carving pumpkins all over town, so I thought it would be appropriate for me to show you a traditional Thai dessert that involves a little bit of a pumpkin carving skill. And so we're making something called สังขยาฟักทอง So here's the breakdown of the word. สังขยา is a coconut custard, andฟักทอง means pumpkin, and in Thailand it actually refers to a kabocha squash, which is the only kind of pumpkin we have. So we're going to make the coconut custard, carve out the pumpkin. I'm going to refer to this as a pumpkin from now on. And then cook the custard in this pumpkin. All right, so let's take a look at our ingredients. So we've got 1 kabocha squash, 1 cup of coconut milk, 300 grams of palm sugar, 6 eggs plus 1 egg yolk, half a teaspoon plus an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of rice flour, and 1 pandan leaf. Okay, so first we're going to carve out our pumpkin here, and I should probably take off my bunny gloves. And we're going to carve out the lid, the square on top. Just go in. You can also use another kind of squash. You can use a sugar pumpkin, like the one they use to make pumpkin pie, or you can use a red curry squash. Okay, so now the hard part is getting the lid out and make sure all the corners are loose, that nothing is kind of still stuck. And the thing about kabocha squash is it often does not come with the handle for you to pull it off, so it's a bit of a struggle. So what I do is I just kind of take my knife and wiggle it to try to get it to come up. There we go. Ah, come on. You can do this. Ta-da! We're going to clean this up because we're going to use the lid. Well, at least eat it. So just cut this out. And then you're going to do what you normally do with your pumpkin is to take a spoon, sharp edges, so thin spoons would be nice, and hollow out all the seeds. Okay, and now you want to make sure you scrape out as much of the furry stuff inside as you can. And then rinse the pumpkin, just because there's often loose furry stuff inside. So just rinse it out to get rid of any of the loose stuff. That's all. And now, just gonna let this sit on paper towel or on a towel of some sort, and just so that it'll dry out. And now that that's done, we're going to make the custard. We're just going to cook the palm sugar with the coconut milk, just so that the sugar is dissolved. And I'm not gonna pour in all the coconut milk, I'll save some. You'll see why in a minute. And oh, the pandan leaves are also going in to infuse. Now, you're just going to cook this until the sugar dissolves. No more, no need to bring it to a boil. In fact, traditionally, they don't even cook this mixture. But in Thailand, what they use is the kind of palm sugar that's soft and sticky and wet, and it dissolves quite easily in liquid. So what they do is they put everything in a big bowl and just use their hand to scrunch, 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 and the sugar will eventually dissolve, and in the act of scrunching, the pandan leaves get agitated enough that you can extract the flavors through the mechanical action. But we are using the hard type of palm sugar, and the scrunching doesn't work, trust me, I've tried. And meanwhile, while this is cooking, what you want to have set up is a steamer. So I've got this big steamer here, and we're going to cook our pumpkin in here. So it's a good idea while your thing is cooking to get some water in there and get it get it started so that when our pumpkin is ready, you don't have to wait for it to boil and all that stuff. So while you're here, you know, just being efficient. Okay. So just bring this over and letting it chill out here for a second while we get our other parts ready. And I'm doing 1 extra egg yolk because traditionally this recipe uses duck eggs, which has a higher yolk to white ratio. So I'm adding 1 extra yolk just to mimic that because I can't find duck eggs here. So that little bit of coconut milk that we saved, I'm just gonna add it to our rice flour so that it mixes, it dissolves it a little bit, because adding rice flour directly to the eggs usually leave annoying clumps. And the rice flour will actually help stabilize the custard because we're using coconut milk. And as you know, coconut milk has a tendency to, like if you've opened a can of coconut milk, the fat will float to the top and the watery part will stay down below. And adding a little bit of starch will actually help minimize that separation. It will still separate, so your custard will have like kind of 2 layers going, which is completely, that's what you are expecting, but adding a little bit of starch will help minimize that. You don't have to go out and buy a rice flour for this. If all you have is all-purpose flour, you can add a little less, perhaps 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour for this. Don't forget your salt. Desserts are never good without salt. Okay, so now that more or less mixed up, we're gonna go in with our palm sugar coconut mixture. So this shouldn't be that hot because we didn't boil it or anything, just to the sugar was mostly dissolved. But just in case, we're gonna slowly pour it in anyway. And the procedure, if you notice, is exactly the same as you would make any kind of Western style custard. Creme brulee, flan, creme caramel. Now this is going to make more than I need for 1 pumpkin, but I'm giving you this recipe just because some people have bigger pumpkins and some people have smaller, and so it's always good to have extra rather than not enough to fill a pumpkin, right? So now we're going to strain it just to make sure there are no clumps, lumps of any rice flour or sugar or anything in it, or any gloopy bits of egg whites. Whee. Now, if you want to test it, like if you decide to change up the recipe, you want to see how sweet this is, maybe you want it more sweet or whatever, you can take a little bit and steam just a little bit in the bowl to taste it and see if you like how it tastes. That would be a way to do it. Okay, now we're going to fill our pumpkin, but before we do that, we're going to set it up in our steaming container. So I could steam the pumpkin just on its own in a steamer, but these things have been known to crack as it steams. So when that happens, the custard will come running out. So putting it in, if you have a bowl that's exactly the size of this pumpkin, that'll work. Or you can put it in something bigger and then put foil all around it, which is what I'm gonna do. And the foil will kind of help act as support for the pumpkin, so it's not, so if it does split, it's not gonna collapse all over the place. And you're going to fill it, not all the way up because it'll fluff up a little, just when it reaches the base of the pumpkin. And also I should mention that some pumpkins have thicker flesh than others, so when you are buying, the heavier it feels for its size, that means the thicker it is. And also, you want to pick a pumpkin that is dark green and has orange patches around it, because that is a sign that it is ripe. If it's all green and there's no sign of orange, that means the pumpkin will be very young and it won't have a lot of flavor. It will be very, just not good. So So here we are, and that's it. We're going to steam this, and don't forget the lid. We're going to steam the lid along with it because we want to use it to close. Go into the steamer. Now, we're going to steam this for about an hour, so make sure there is enough water in your steamer or it'll dry out and you'll burn your pot, which I have done before. You could also, I'm guessing it's possible to do this in the oven, although I'm not sure how long or what temperature, but I'm probably thinking something 300 to 325, a low oven, just like you would like a cheesecake. Okay, so the heat, I'm putting it on medium heat, not too high. You want the water to be boiling, but not so vigorously, because the higher the heat, the custard will fluff up too fast and it won't be as smooth. So the nature of this custard is not supposed to be, you know, creme brulee smooth anyway, but you want to kind of help it out a little bit by not putting in too much heat. So about 50 minutes to an hour, and then we'll come and take it out. So I made this last night to show you because the pumpkin needs to cool down and everything before you cut it. Now, I wanted to show you also that this one splits. Usually it'll split, if it does, at the natural grooves of the pumpkin, and that's why it's important that you support it with something. So when you bring this to a party, you can bring it like this, put the lid back on, and I already cut this yesterday. And then the inside will look like that. When you serve it, you just want to cut it into wedges. And it's a good idea in between cuts to wipe your knife. This is standard also cake cutting procedure. If you're cutting nice wedding cakes or whatever it is, it's always good to clean off your knife so that the next slice is nice and clean. And that's it. This is our Sankhya Phak Thong. You can also call it Phak Thong Sankhya and reverse the order. As you can see, the top part is a little different texture-wise than the bottom part. That's a natural separation. If we didn't put the rice flour in, it would be a more distinct separation. So a nice gradient like this is perfect. And also, the skin is perfectly edible. It's really soft, and you don't have to eat it, but you can. And it's probably really good for you too. Lots of nutrients. So that's all for your Halloween special. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe. And for the recipe, you can visit hotthaikitchen.com, and I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal.